given a history of park athletics in the 1900s. So we had baseball players at the turn of the century, if you can imagine, kind of old Cracker Jack motifs. We have pictures of women's basketball going back to the 19 teens. So our history is long, but what I'm here to talk to you about is the recent history. And where the title of my presentation comes.
We're having a slight difficulty. I'm gonna just interrupt for 1 second.
Sure.
This computer here. I'll just work the slides from up here.
I'll chat for a little bit. I'm going to lead into where this is. So that's quite all right. So the theme of this presentation is Parkville's college team, right? Here's the inspiration for it. So a few years ago, I'm minding my own business, driving through Kansas City, heading down Broadway towards the IRS and Union Station. And university in Columbia saying that the Tigers are Kansas City's college team. And I'm thinking to myself, hey, wait a minute. We've won 7 national championships. How dare they own this area? And so I got back to the office, reached out to our design team and said, hey, can you create a sign that we can put in front of campus that says Parkville's college team? And that's how it happened. So when Marcus invited me to do this, I thought, how am I going to theme this? It's college team, because we have been the college team in Parkville, Missouri for decades. And officially, when you're talking about intercollegiate activities dating back to the 50s. So we've been proud to be local. We've been proud to be part of this community. So what I'm hoping to do today, and I'm going to add, oh, there they go. Next slide, please, Marcus. Thanks. Let me give you a broad overview. First, I'm going to talk about who we are. We're pirates. We're resilient. We have a little bit of attitude, not too much swagger, although when you come home with a championship banner, you can have a little swagger. Next slide, please. We're not an NCAA school. University of Kansas is, University of Missouri is. We're a member of the National Association of Independent or Intercollegiate Athletics, which is headquartered in downtown Kansas City. They tend to be smaller schools. We also tend to be schools that focus on student athletes, student first, and I'll talk to you a little bit about that as well. In terms of our conference, we're in the Hart Conference, which is centered likewise in Kansas City, and our local rivals are across town. Benedictine, which is just up 45 Highway in Atchison, Mid-American Nazarene University, which is in Olathe, and Baker University, which is in Baldwin City. So we're headquartered, we're here. We are Kansas City, and we've been Kansas City. We have 18 intercollegiate sports. I'm going to talk to you, and it's not just male sports. We're going to talk about what our women do, and we're going to talk about our most recent sport, which is co-ed. And my last bullet, one big set of shoes to fill. Our athletic director, Claude English, has been with us for 29 and a half years, announced his retirement last week. And lo and behold, our president invited me to serve as co-chair of the search committee. So I'm going to be spending a lot of quality time looking not for his replacement. You can't replace a legend, but someone who can step in his shoes and take us to the next level in the 21st century. Next slide, please. So I'm going to talk a little bit about philosophy, particularly when it comes to student athletes. Next slide, please. We believe at Park University in the student athlete model, and academics come first. And the proof behind that is if you look at the GPAs of our student athletes, they outperform the general student population, which is pretty significant because you hear stories at big schools about students having problems or athletes having problems finishing classes. It's an expectation that if you come play at Park University, you're going to go to your classes, you're going to take your books with you when you're on the road, and you're part of something bigger than yourself. And so there's a sense of pride in this organization that it's not just about how you perform on the field. It's that you walk across the stage like the experience that you had, and then you can show your parents, you can show your friends, I did it. As part of the NAIA, I should have this memorized because I have to say this before games all the time. NAIA believes in character. And so as a member organization, we participate in their Champions of Character program, which includes 5 core values. integrity, respect, responsibility, sportsmanship, and servant leadership. If you come to play at Park, as I said, you're going to be a student first, you're going to be required to do community service. It's absolute, no ways around it. And here's an example of our women's soccer team working at a food bank this past year. Scores and scores of examples. So when people graduate, not only will they've had an intercollegiate playing experience, more likely than their peers, they will have a college degree. And maybe even more significantly, they've given back to their community. They know, with my degree, I know there's need in the world. I know I'm a leader. I know I can make this world a better place. And so that's something that we try to put together at our university. Next slide, please. So let's talk about the sports. And I mentioned all of them. And I always start with the women's sports. And there's multiple reasons for it, because we believe in equity, but also because I announced soccer. We play double headers and the women's come before the men's. So I always think women's first. So there you go. Next slide, please. So many of the sports are the same for the men and women. Basketball, cross country, golf as an example, soccer. I could spend hours talking about our soccer program, and we're really excited because the schedule got posted on social media today. So starting at the end of this month, I'm going to be spending some quality time across the street on the other side of the church announcing games. Softball, and I'm going to walk you through some of our physical locations so you can get a sense of where they play. Track and field, I'm going to talk to you a lot about our volleyball team, which is an amazing story. And something that they started a couple years ago, which is sort of interesting. And for those of you who live in Parkville, you'll appreciate it. We started a beach volleyball program. So women's volleyball is a fall sport, both at the collegiate level and then the high school level. So we started a beach volleyball program thinking they would play in the spring, thinking they would play in a new sand surface in English Landing Park. What happened a couple years ago at the park? All that sand kind of got mushy. So they've been playing a lot of games on the road, but we'll talk about that as well. Next slide, please. The men, a lot of the same sports: baseball, basketball, cross country, golf, soccer, track and field, and volleyball. The volleyball programs, both men and women, are national champions multiple times. The men's volleyball plays a winter schedule, whereas the women play a fall schedule. But in a lot of these sports that are team sports, we play double headers to not only save time, but to build efficiencies and build camaraderie between the women's program and the men's program. And speaking of camaraderie between women and men, next slide, we added most recently our first co-ed sport, which is esports. And what's significant about this program is a couple-fold. First of all, the inaugural hire was a woman head coach. So if you think kind of out there in the world of gaming, et cetera, you may have this picture of male dominated, and it has been traditionally male dominated endeavor, but a woman head coach, co-ed teams. We compete, actually there's space under our campus. I'd love to show it to you sometime, in what we call the Parkade Battlegrounds. And so think of like this big tricked out video room with big chairs and these massive monitors, and that's how they compete. We compete against schools that you've heard of all over the country, including some of the ones I've mentioned earlier that have launched esports programs, KU and Mizzou, but schools on all coasts. It gives Park an opportunity to compete against peers in a type of endeavor that we wouldn't necessarily do in, say, a baseball or softball. Next slide, please. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the facilities in terms of giving you a picture of where our student athletes compete. Next slide, please. So we'll start from top left. So that beautiful lit field with Parkville Presbyterian Church right across the street in the background is Julian Field, home to our women's and men's soccer. Hi, my name is Erik Bergrud. I'm Chief Strategic Communications Officer here at Park University. I'm also the voice of Park Pirates women's and men's soccer. It was my honor in July to speak at the monthly town hall of the Parkville Living Center, and I know we had just a slight technical glitch during the Zoom portion of my presentation. So I want to fill you in on a couple topics I addressed at the end of my conversation. First, I talked about facilities that our teams use not only here on campus, but throughout Parkville. And then I made an appeal to come support Parkville's college team, Park University Pirates. So we'll do that here today. So let's talk a little bit about facilities. And so I can't start talking about facilities without focusing first on our campus. And I'll do it for those of you who are familiar with Parkville, closest to the Parkville Presbyterian Church, where the Parkville Living Center meetings take place. Almost immediately across the street from the church, you will find two great facilities. I'll start from the north and then work closer to campus. So between the Parkville Nature Sanctuary and downtown Parkville, you'll find the Park University softball complex, which hosts our softball team that plays games in the spring. There's great parking nearby. You'll see lawn chairs where people will just come out and support the team. It's a great place to spend a spring day. Adjacent to that, where I spent a lot of my time as an announcer, is Julian Field, which is the home of Park's women's and men's soccer teams. We play in the fall typically on Wednesday evenings in a doubleheader. The women play first, the men play second, and then on Saturday afternoons. And in addition to hosting Park home games, we've hosted all sorts of professional teams from the United States. We've even had international teams have clinics on our campus, most significantly Manchester United. As you head up the hill in what we call 6th Street, 6th Street is the turn onto our campus, and we like to say to other teams, welcome to 6th Street, because that's where we host our games. The Brecken Sports Center is the home of women's and men's volleyball and women's and men's basketball. On the basketball front, we again play double headers in the winter and then early spring. The women play first, the men play second. Volleyball's a little bit different. The women's volleyball team plays in the fall and the men play in the winter. And what we're proud of is 7 combined national championships for those teams. The women have won 2, the men have won 5, and we love to say to the world that Parkville is the volleyball capital of America. If you go up to the top of the hill, really on the border of where the Riss Lake property line hits, you will find Comfort Field, which is the home of our baseball team. And once again in the spring, it's a great place to bring out a lawn chair, or you can sit in the bleachers and watch our baseball team. We have track and cross country here at Park University. You will notice that there is a track on our campus. It's a 6-lane track, so it's a practice track. Currently, our track teams and our cross country teams compete on the road. We're hoping to look at a feasibility study to bring competitive track, which would mean 8-lane track here on the Parkville campus. Off campus, if you head to West Parkville, our men's and women's golf teams compete at the National, and our women's golf team just this past spring won their conference championship. So they will play, host some tournaments here in the fall, and then they'll be back again in the spring. And then the last team that competes in Parkville, or at least outside, is our beach volleyball team. Well, technically they were supposed to compete in Parkville in brand new pits right across the street in English Landing Park, but they had a little bit of a water issue a couple years ago. So they're competing on the road right now. Finally, I mentioned outdoor teams. I also mentioned above ground teams. Underground on the campus is our Park Esports program that actually competes in what we call the Parkade Battlegrounds. They're co-ed. They compete in 4 different games, and it's been an opportunity to take sports into a new realm. We've been very happy with the level of competition here on this campus, and what's been great about this, it's so new esports are, that we've been able to compete with schools we wouldn't normally compete in sports with. Think the University of Kansas, think University of Missouri, and schools all across the country. Those are the facilities that we use here in Parkville, and I'll close by making an appeal to all Parkville residents. This is your university. This is your team, Parkville's college team. We welcome you to come out this fall to support Park Pirates. You can find their information on their website, parkathletics.com. All home matches are streamed on parkathletics.tv, and you can find Park Pirates on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Again, thank you for your support of the Parkville Living Center. Thank you for your support of your university, your college team, and I hope that you take an opportunity this fall to really get invested in your community. We know that we're a great part of it, and I look forward to seeing you at a Park Pirates match soon.